Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Tuesday. Hi, hello, how the heck are you? Great to be with you on this Tuesday. Look forward to spending the next 3 hours with you here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video channels. Our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk, our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you're tuning in to the program today, thanks so much for being a part of the audience. Appreciate you dialing in for this edition of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuy will be along in a bit. Brendan Dworzinski is off today. We have got 3 hours of sports talk coming your way and lots to get to. We're going to cover a lot of bases on the program today. We're going to talk some Chiefs. We're going to talk some NFL football. We're going to talk some Sunflower Showdown. Some Sunflower Showdown smack talk emanating from Manhattan. We're going to talk some Big 12 basketball. Men's Basketball Media Day is tomorrow. So we're going to have wall-to-wall coverage and audio from the T-Mobile Center on tomorrow's edition of the program. That's where I will be spending the day at the T-Mobile Center, collecting all of that for us here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Spencer are going to hold things down from the studio while I am in downtown KC. Women's Basketball Media Day was today. Brett Yormark spoke at today's event, which pretty smart move, I got to say. Typically, the men's event is going to be more well-attended than the women's media event, typically. But if you want to hear the commissioner, you had to be there, or you had to be watching ESPNU, which is what I was doing when Yormark went to the podium. But Brett Yormark said something that made me pump my fist and clap my hands and say, hell yeah, Brett Yormark. And I'm going to tell you what that was a little bit later on the show today. So we're going to talk a little basketball. We'll preview Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Day later on in the program. We're going to talk some Jayhawks with Michael Swain. He's our guest today, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll talk to Michael on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, Michael Swain of Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly, get his perspective on the upcoming Sunflower Showdown on Saturday and what he's expecting to hear, what he is looking forward to about Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Day. I mentioned we're going to talk about the Chiefs. Rashee Rice's target share as a percentage of his routes run on Sunday was 63%. That's pretty high. Or is it? We'll talk about what to expect from the Chiefs and how they want to distribute the targets, and if that's even really a concern if Rashee Rice is who we think he is. We'll get into that. We'll talk about how last night's Monday Night Football doubleheader did absolutely nothing to clear up the NFC picture. Well, I guess I shouldn't say absolutely nothing. It looks like it's Detroit and everybody else. But the everybody else got a little bit muddier, I thought, based on some of the performances last night. Just don't know what to make of a lot of the teams in the NFC right now. We'll get into that a little bit later on. And also one player excusing himself from the MVP conversation in last night's Monday Night Football doubleheader. Plus, we got our typical Tuesday shenanigans. We'll do our 580 Sports Talk headlines, including a playoff roundup. Hug a Mariners fan today. If you know one, give him a hug. Plus, we'll do Random Question Tuesday. We got What Is Wrong With You, all that good stuff. And we want to hear from you throughout the program today. You hit me up on the text line. Text line is open. 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. Can also jump into the live chat on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. So you can check us out. You can watch the program. You put us up on your 70-inch 4K TV at home if you want. I bet I look better, and I need all the help I can get. I need all the pixels that I can get. Although maybe at this stage, we had a rough couple of nights sleep at the Lucero Manor. Asher's been a little fussy. So I think I might have bags under my eyes right now. It's why I've kind of got my hat pulled a little lower on the show today. But no, you can check out the show on YouTube today and every day. 580 Sports Talk's the name of the channel. Go subscribe if you have not already. And while the show is live, there is a live chat. Poke your heads in, say hello, introduce yourselves if you've never been a part of the chat before, and interact with your hosts and your fellow listeners as we go along. A special shout out to our commentariat so far. Trevor's in the chat. Good to see you. Andrew, Christopher, Mark H, as per usual's in early. Love to see that. Look forward to hearing from more of you as we go along throughout the day here on 580 Sports Talk. Trevor knows how to get on my good side, shouting out my Seattle Seahawks, who were winners last night. I had to stay up till 12:30 watching that stupid football game. That was, you would think I'd be happier after a primetime victory for my favorite football team. But that game was painful to watch. The Seahawks turned it over 4 times, and they won by a touchdown plus because the Texans are wretched. Really, really sorry on offense. So it was not really an enjoyable football game. And they were playing at 12:30 Central Time, 12:30 a.m. Central Time on a work night. So it's like Big 12 after dark or Pac-12 after dark, if you can remember the old days, except at least the next day you didn't have to go to work. And also the offenses were probably better in Big 12 after dark, typically. It was not a good display of offense last night. But, yeah, Seahawks defense played well. I was happy to see that. A little bit more about the Monday Night Football doubleheader here in a little bit in this opening hour. But thank you for noticing, Trevor, that I came decked out today. Anyhow, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. The text line is 785-272-9429. It's hard to take a lot away from the Chiefs' win over the Raiders on Sunday. It was so comprehensive that really by about the third quarter, the game took on the feel of a preseason game. And you could even big picture say that it functioned that way from the very start for this Chiefs offense in one particular sense. It goes beyond they got their starters out of the game in the third quarter, which is extremely preseason energy there. It was the first time they'd ever gotten to see what their receiving group of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown would look like while taking live fire, essentially. It's one thing to have those guys all together and throw them 7-on-7s or even the padded practices that the Chiefs like to run in training camp. But a real game is something else altogether. And that was the first opportunity we got to see that realization of this receiving group and what it could look like and how Patrick Mahomes would distribute the ball to his top 3 wide receivers. And the early returns suggest a whole lot of Rashee Rice. It stands out. 10 targets in a game is not an abnormal number. Even 10 targets in 2.5 quarters in 5 drives is not an abnormal number. It stood out in the sense that it was 10 targets on 16 routes run. So 63%, I'm rounding up, 62.5, 63% of the time that Rashee Rice ran a route, the football was waiting for him from Patrick Mahomes. And part of me wondered at first, is this a conscious effort to feed Rashee Rice, to get him up to game speed, to get him hit a little bit, just get him involved again and get his sea legs as soon as possible? And I certainly think there were some instances, particularly on the opening drive around the goal line, where Rice was being force-fed because they wanted to get him a touchdown. And we talked on Monday, when you can choose who's going to score the touchdowns for you, you're a lot better than the team you're playing against. Typically, that is not a luxury you are afforded. Most teams, like real good teams that the Chiefs are going to play, you just got to get in the end zone. You don't get to break the huddle on 1st and goal and say, all right, let's get Rashee a touchdown. He hadn't played a football game since week 4 last year. Let's get him a touchy, as Jim Nantz called them. Let's get him a touchy. Not going to get to do that when they play Buffalo in 2 weeks, probably. So there were some instances where it felt like they were force-feeding him a little bit. But okay, take those 2 goal line plays out of the equation. The swing pass that was designed to get him a touchdown that the Raiders actually defended pretty well and stopped him short. And then the pop pass that was designed to get him a touchdown that did, in fact, get him a touchdown. You want to toss those out, that's fine. That's still 8 targets on 14 routes run. And still, you're throwing to him 57% of the time that you drop back and he runs a route. But I went back and looked. I was curious, given that number, given that workload, that volume for Rice's first game. In the first 3 games of 2024, Rice was targeted 29 times. So right there, in 3 games that were like real games for the Chiefs last season, he was targeted about 10 times per game. So then I went and looked and wondered about some of the other guys that you would consider the elite wide receivers in the league. Like, who are those guys for you? Who's on your short list? I'm actually curious. Drop them in the text line, 785-272-9429, or give me your list if you're watching on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Who you think the best wide receivers in the league are right now? For me, it's still Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, 1, 2. And then it's probably in some order, and I'm obviously going to be, my bias is going to show here, but Jackson Smith and Jigba is absolutely in that conversation this year. Puka Nacua is in that conversation. He's probably, like, honestly, if you wanted to put him right even with Chase and Jefferson at this point, I think I would listen to you on that. And then beyond that, I think, you know, a healthy Tyreek Hill had been a top 5 guy for so long. He's not that, obviously, anymore. Devontae Adams has been a top 5 guy in the league. CeeDee Lamb might be your selection there. But, like, I'm curious who your top 5 guys are without thinking about it too hard. I'm sure I've left off some really good players. My top 5 is probably Jefferson, Chase, Nacua, Lamb, and I'm going to put JSN in there because I'm biased. But if you want to put A.J. Brown in your top 5 in the league, that's certainly an understandable guy to put up there. But I say all that to say this. There's a top echelon of wide receivers. And just to take 3 of those names, Justin Jefferson, he's around 8.5 targets per game. Keep in mind, he is currently having Carson Wentz throw him the football. Jamar Chase is over 11 targets per game. JSN, who is really it for the Seahawks. It's him, and it's a bunch of tight ends you've never heard of and washed up Cooper Kupp. He's right at 10 targets per game. So if you think Rashee Rice is in that class of wide receiver, 10 targets a game sounds about right, even with an increased workload, which you will expect as the Chiefs, you know, play 4-quarter games, which Sundays wasn't. And so that is about your perception. Is Rashee Rice merely the Chiefs' best receiver, or is he a top-tier guy in the league? And I lean towards the latter. I think he's not in my top 5. I'm not giving him top 5 consideration. But he's probably in the back end of my top 10. Like, I gave you 5. I gave you A.J. Brown's probably in my top 6. Like, I think there's a tier of guys that is above the rest of the league. But I think on that second tier, if you want to call it the elite tier, the S tier, whatever you want, on that A tier of receivers, Rashee Rice is on that tier. So if he's that good, and I think he is, how then can you not throw in the ball 10 times a game? Because, again, were his numbers spectacular on Sunday? No. A lot of that was 3 passes were thrown to him near the goal line. That's going to depress your yards per reception numbers. 7 catches for 42 yards. That's not, you're not going to Canton with a bunch of those games. But 2 of them went for touchdowns. And one of them specifically was a back shoulder throw. And a quick aside about this. It was in the Star. No, it wasn't. It was Jesse Newell in The Athletic today who had this. Jesse Newell writes for The Athletic now, friend of the program. Got to make sure I get that right. Jesse Newell had the story today over at The Athletic about the second touchdown to Rice and how that was born of him and Mahomes having a conversation where Rice says, you know, in college, I was a back shoulder fade guy in the red zone. I was a fade target in the red zone. Usually you think of guys you're throwing the back shoulder fade to, you think of those bigger wide receivers. You think of like a DeAndre Hopkins, for instance. You think of those bigger targets that you just throw it up and they go up over the top of a smaller defensive back and they get it. And the Chiefs have, other than literally having Hopkins for half of last season, never really had that receiver who was the obvious threat for that throw in the red zone. Now that's at wide receiver. Tight end, Travis Kelce's caught a pass or two like that in his career. I remember Mahomes threw one to Jody Fortson once. Like every now and again you have that guy. The Chiefs largely at the wide receiver position haven't had that back shoulder fade threat. Now, setting aside whether or not I think the back shoulder fade is a good play, I actually don't. I don't like the play, generally speaking. A lot has to go right, and if the defender on the outside is physical, he can disrupt the timing. It's a one-read play, and if it doesn't work, then you came up empty. I don't love the goal line fade. It's actually one of my least favorite plays in anybody's playbook. If I'm playing Madden, I'm not calling it, right? But it helps to have somebody who can catch that throw. It helps to have that club in your bag. And I thought it was interesting reporting from Jesse Newell that Rice told Mahomes, hey, you throw that, I'll go get it. I'll make the play. And sure enough, Mahomes makes that throw for the first time all season, and Rashee Rice makes the play. So he's going to be a goal line weapon in that regard. He's going to be an open space weapon. He's going to be a third down weapon. He's going to be a weapon, period, in a lot of different scenarios. And if that's the case, why wouldn't you throw in the ball 10 times a game? At least. So where does that leave everybody else then is the follow-up question. I was curious about where that left everybody else because even though it was only 5 drives, there were a lot of plays that the Chiefs offense ran to the point where Mahomes threw a decent number of passes. Probably a representative number of passes for him. There will be games this season, in fact, where Mahomes doesn't throw as many passes as he did against the Raiders. He was 26 of 35 through the air. This is best completion percentage of the season for what that's worth. But he threw 35 passes, and that's the round, maybe a little below average for him. He's exceeded that 4 times this season. He threw 41 passes against Jacksonville, 39 against the Chargers. Of course, they were behind late both of those games. He threw 37 against the Giants. He threw 37 against Baltimore. So, yeah, it's still a little low, but it's not like an abnormally low number of passes thrown for Mahomes. Where did they go? Well, Hollywood Brown had 4 targets, caught 2 of them. One of them was a touchdown. He'd been averaging about 7 targets per game in the first 6 games of the season. Travis Kelce only had 3 targets. He caught them all for a team best 54 yards receiving. He's averaging, or was averaging, about 5.5 targets per game. Xavier Worthy's around 5 targets per game since he returned from injury. And really, you got to throw one of those games out. So really, it's closer to 6 targets per game because he didn't really play against the Chargers. He had 4 targets against the Raiders. 2 questions I have about Worthy that I think are going to be interesting to follow moving forward. Number one, how healthy do you think he is? Because he's still, he came off the field. He got tackled by the arm that he had hurt. And the CBS camera showed his frustration, and it looked like he was in a good deal of pain there, but he went back in the game afterwards. So it must have just been a scare, which is a huge relief. But it also doesn't look like he's running at full capacity right now, that maybe he tweaked an ankle there a little bit when he came back. And I don't feel like the last 2 weeks we've seen Worthy at 100%. Puffed up the ankle on the flight to Jacksonville, and he wasn't super effective in that game. And he didn't do a ton against the Lions. He didn't do a ton against the Raiders, though it wasn't really needed. I think Xavier Worthy needs the bye week, is what I think. I think that he's still just a little dinged, and a bye week will get him a week closer to returning to that full speed. Because I don't think we've seen him at 100%. And I know it's football. You never played 100%, but that's my first question about Xavier Worthy. The other question I have about Xavier Worthy, do his touches get more, for lack of a better word, I don't even think this is a word, do they get more gadgety Do more of his touches come on those end arounds or those designed wide receiver sweeps / pop passes? Do you do more with him horizontally, east to west, to help you pick something up on first down, to give you a successful play, to stay ahead of the chains? And then when you've done enough of that, that's where you start to stretch the field. That's another way that it can help you stretch the field vertically. It can also help you stretch the defense out to the point where you start to be able to poke holes. They get a little bit more pliable in the middle, and then you can run the ball more effectively between the tackles. It'd be really interesting to monitor Worthy's usage, I think, moving forward in that regard. Tyquan Thornton only had the 2 targets against the Raiders. He caught the 1 long one. I kind of think that's going to be his role. Juju was interesting. Juju was a guy we talked about throughout last week as being a guy who we expected to see a decrease in his total targets. He's 3rd on the team in targets, Juju. He had 3 targets, caught them all. Same number he had the week before that, same number he had the week before that. He just catches a lot of his targets. So far this year, he's caught 82% of the passes thrown his way. 27 targets, 22 receptions. So he's going to be one of those guys you're going to notice more, like, wow, they're throwing the ball to Juju a lot. Well, I mean, not like inordinately. He's just catching everything. All the passes to him are completions. They're over the middle. They're short. They're RPO stuff. But the broader point here is, if Rashee Rice is a top tier, if he's not just your best guy, if he's one of the best guys in the NFL, then everybody else, you don't really worry about, oh, am I getting this guy enough touches? Maybe Worthy's the one guy because of his speed, because of what he can do in some of those gadget situations. Maybe that's a guy you go into game planning thinking, oh, we have got to get this guy more than just 3-4 touches this week. We've got to find a way to manufacture touches for Xavier Worthy. I don't know that you have to do that for Hollywood or for Tyquan Thornton or for Juju or even for Travis Kelce. I think Rashee Rice gets his, and then everybody else kind of falls into place. Because I know the slogan is everybody's got to eat. But somebody's got to be first to the trough, right? And I think that somebody is Rashee Rice. And I would not be surprised if 10 targets is the norm on more routes run in 4-quarter games. But I would expect to see Rice with double-figure targets moving forward. This is not like fantasy football advice. This is just, look, everybody's got to eat, but somebody's always first to put that fork into the pan of food and serve themselves first. And Rashee Rice going to be first come, first serve for this Chiefs offense. And we saw what that could look like on Sunday, and it was awfully encouraging. We'll take a quick time out here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get your thoughts on some of the top wide receivers in the NFL. Plus, Monday Night Football last night. RIP to Baker Mayfield's MVP chances. And it's the Lions and everybody else in the NFC, but who starts that line of everybody else? We'll discuss that next here on 580 WIBW, as we're just getting started here on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Some thoughts on the text line, or rather the YouTube comments on the top wide receivers in the NFL right now. Like I said, I threw out my top 5. For me, it's still Jefferson, Chase, 1A, 1B. If I had to lean in one direction, it's probably Chase right now, though that's not really fair because Jefferson's been saddled with Carson Wentz to start this season. He was a little dinged up last year. Right now, I think Chase has the belt, but Jefferson could take it from him at any time. Rest of my top 5 is Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, and I got to shout my guy out, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Andrew in the YouTube comments throws out Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is a good shout. Really, really good player. Certainly top 10. He's top 10. A.J. Brown's top 10. Andrew also throws out Malik Neighbors if he hadn't gotten hurt. Neighbors was very close to top 10 consideration after a tremendous year last year, and then he got dinged up. Michael Pittman's having a good year. That's another good shout by Andrew. He's having a good year in Indianapolis. But, like, I would put Rashee Rice ahead of Michael Pittman. And I would probably put Rashee Rice ahead of Malik Neighbors, not just because he's injured right now. Just think he's a little bit more of a complete wide receiver. Malik Neighbors kind of a deep ball guy. That's his specialty right now. I think Rice exists on that tier above guys like Devontae Smith, who's really good. I mean, I'm not saying these guys are bums. Like Devontae Smith, I think is a cut below. DK Metcalf, I think, is a cut below. Never quite popped for DK. Like he's always been very good. I don't think he's ever gotten to great. I don't think he's ever gotten to like legit top 5 consideration in the league. But I think he's below those guys. Goober Train shouts out Lad McConkey. I don't know that he's quite top 10 for me. Here are arguments for him in the top 20. Like as far as a route technician, a route runner, he certainly deserves some consideration. But I guess the end product of this conversation is, wow, there are a lot of good wide receivers out there. A lot of them were on display last night in the Monday Night Football doubleheader. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown. We saw Emeka Egbuka, who's having a great rookie year. We unfortunately saw Mike Evans get hurt, and that 1,000-yard season stretch streak is finally going to end for Mike Evans because it looks like his season might have ended last night after he took a big hit, broke his collarbone. Todd Bowles saying he'll be out for most of the rest of the season. I don't know what that means. Whether they'll get him back like late December, mid-December, early December, will they get him back for the playoffs? I don't know, but it's going to be an extended stretch without Mike Evans. Tampa Bay, just the walking wounded. They're dealing with so many injuries. They've just gotten Evans back, and then he gets hurt again. That was too bad. Then, of course, you saw 2 really good ones. Nico Collins is another one. Really good player for Houston. Unfortunately, he got hurt last night, too. Suffered a concussion, took a bad fall, and had his head snap backwards and hit the turf, which you always cringe when you see that. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I think is the guy right now who is making the loudest bid to be a top 5 guy in the league of anybody who was probably not in top 5 consideration before this season, because last year Seahawks offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb thought he was just a gadget player, and that was really stupid. That's why Ryan Grubb is back in college. Anyway, so last night Detroit beats Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield, I think that's the end of the MVP discussion for Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker's fun. I don't want to rain on anybody's parade with regards to enjoying the Baker Mayfield experience. I think for a long time in the league, we didn't have that middle class of quarterback who was actually enjoyable, who could actually get you up off your seat, who was more than just like a competent guy who could actually go and win you a ball game. But nobody's going to put Baker Mayfield in like, is Baker Mayfield elite? Like, we're not going to do that, right? We kind of know where Baker stands in the pecking order in the league. He's having a nice year, but they went up against a Detroit secondary missing most of their good guys and Brian Branch, who was suspended, as we are all well aware, and they couldn't do anything. You saw how important it was for Detroit to have Alan McNeil back on their defensive line. He was a beast. 24-9 ended up being that final score. We usually only say this about college teams. I think the Lions are the only team that this really applies to in the NFL. You talk about their culture and a culture win. Nick Baumgartner made this point at The Athletic today. That's what that was. That was a culture win for the Lions. That was, hey, we're not losing again. Doesn't matter who's playing, who's not playing. We are not losing again. We got humbled on Sunday night by the 3-time AFC champs. That's not happening again. We are reasserting our NFC dominance on this stage. And that is exactly what the Lions did. And then the late game, and I hope you went to bed before I did watching the end of that game. I really sincerely hope you did, because that was a very hard to watch fourth quarter. Seattle had a huge lead and turned it over twice in the fourth quarter. Sam Darnold threw a nonsense interception. I will not be fooled. I will not be fooled. Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. He fumbled in the end zone for a touchdown when all you got to do is get rid of the ball or even just eat it for a safety. And he chose option C, drop it at the feet of Will Anderson. Great play, dude. He threw a terrible pick in the fourth quarter when the game did not need Sam Darnold to throw the ball up the seam. Needed him to make the safe play. But even presented with those gifts and those opportunities to stay in the game, the Texans certainly were not competent enough on offense to take that. And some of that is the Seattle defense, which, look, I will complain about Sam Darnold till the cows come home. But that Seattle defense is restoring the feeling. That looks a little LOB-ish right now. Maybe not so much on the back end where they're still dealing with some injuries, but that front four, as it should against the Texans offensive line that is stinky, dominated the game last night. Leonard Williams, Boye Mafe, Uchenna Nwosu, Jaron. I will never figure out. Jaron Reed was a really good player in Seattle. Then he went to Kansas City, was not good. Emphatically did not help the Chiefs. And then he's been a really good player after that. Good in Green Bay. He's gone back to Seattle. He's still really good. He's a veteran in his 30s, still playing really high-level football. No idea why it didn't work out in Kansas City. 1 year in Kansas City, he was a non-factor. And I will never figure that out as long as I live. One of the great mysteries of the Chiefs dynasty. Why couldn't they get more out of Jaron Reed? But Seattle dominated that game up front. They're 5-2. They are still, according to Football Outsiders DVOA, the best team in football. I would dispute that claim, much as I would love it to be true. Trust me, I would love for that to be true. It is not true. I would dispute that claim. I would dispute it wholeheartedly. I don't think that's the best team in football. So the stats, or one specific stat says is the best team in football, is the Seattle Seahawks. So with that in mind, you have to include them in any list of NFC contenders. It's Detroit, and then it's who? And I don't really have a great answer to that. Seattle has the hellacious defense. They have a true game-changing number one wide receiver in JSN. They got some pieces. And if they have found their ability to win at home again, they've got a real chance of winning that division. Problem is, it's still a really good division because the 49ers can roll anybody out and continue to win football games because they still have some offensive talent that remains on the upper echelon. They still have a Christian McCaffrey. They still have a George Kittle. Now, how long into a season are those guys going to be capable of playing at their very best? I don't know. But when they do, you saw what that looked like. I still think they're going to miss Fred Warner. I still don't think they're going to win that division. But you can't write them off. You certainly can't write off the Rams, who have played well, 5-2. Not going to write off the Buccaneers just yet, but it's so many injuries. At some point, you stress test a team's depth the way that Tampa Bay has been stress tested with all the injuries, particularly on offense, and it starts to crumble the facade a little bit. So I don't know about them as a real contender. Obviously, they're still Philadelphia. Still 5-2. They beat Minnesota on Sunday. We didn't really talk about that game yesterday. It was on at the same time as Chiefs Raiders, so I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch any of it. I just know they hit on some deep balls, and that would appear to be what's going to make things go for this year's edition of the Eagles, because you know who is suddenly extremely ordinary? Saquon Barkley. That's kind of a bummer because Barkley at his best is one of the best running backs of his era. He's just kind of been a guy so far this year. And that is the life cycle of an elite running back, right? They're great, and then all of a sudden they reach back for that 99-mile-an-hour fastball, and it sputters out at 92, right? If I can mix my sports metaphors here, that's what we're seeing from Saquon Barkley right now. It's a lot of 92-mile-an-hour fastballs. You can get guys out with 92, but it ain't 99. So if Saquon Barkley is just good, I think he's still good. I don't think he's, they're not looking to move him to the bench or anything. But if he's just good, because last year he was the best running back in football. If he's not the best running back in football and is merely good, then what is the ceiling for that Eagles offense? And is it high enough to overcome an Eagles defense that is so hard up for pass rushing that they brought Brandon Graham out of retirement today? And I love Brandon Graham, Michigan Wolverine. But I don't know what the highs look like for the Eagles. We've only seen them in fits and starts this year. Now, they could obviously find some consistency. They still have some high-level talent on the offense, still got some good players on the offensive line, but that's the other part of this here. It's not just Barkley that's merely good. It appears now that the offensive line, dealing with some injuries, is also just merely good. And is that good enough? So I don't know how you'd order him in the NFC. I go Detroit. See, I still don't know. I'm trying to talk through it right now, and I don't have any idea. Like Green Bay's in the mix. They're 4-1-1. I think we kind of maybe forgot about them a little bit. They had the bye. They weren't real convincing against the Cardinals. In the game before the bye, they had that ridiculous tie with the Cowboys. But they're still in the mix. I have no idea who the second best team in the NFC is. Who do you think is the second best team in the NFC? Tell me on the text line, 785-272-9429, or in the YouTube comments. I don't want to say Seattle. I don't believe DVOA. I don't think that's the best team in football. If they were the best team in football, they would have won last night 40-0, and I could have gone to bed at halftime, and I'd be in a happier mood. I can tell you that right now. When we come back, Brett Yormark at Big 12 Women's Basketball Media Day today said something that made me jump out of my chair and give him a standing ovation in my living room when I was at home during my lunch break. I'm going to tell you what it was that he said that made me feel really enthusiastic about the future of the Big 12 Conference. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. The consensus on the YouTube comments on the question, who's the second best team in the NFC, is that there is no consensus. Braden throws out the Packers. Welcome in, Braden. Said they look really good the first 2-3 weeks, even if the last 3 haven't been great. Yeah, I think all of these teams, Packers, Eagles, Rams, hell, even the Seahawks, like the highs could be really high. But we've also seen some pretty substantial lows. And I think if you're asking me, like, whose quarterback do you trust more to go out and, like, try and reach an NFC championship game against, if we're assuming Detroit is the best team in the conference, you put Love on that list before you put Sam Darnold on that list. You put Jalen Hurts on that list, I think, before you put Sam Darnold on that list. Goober Train says it's the Rams. Andrew says it's the Eagles. Andrew also says if the Commanders got healthy, they'd be in the mix. David, disappointed in the Commanders, their first part of the season. Would like to see them turn it around. And I think a lot of people would prefer if that turnaround did not start until, say, next Tuesday. Just as an example. Brett Yormark spoke earlier today at Big 12 Women's Basketball Media Day in Kansas City. 2 days of media days for Big 12 basketball. The women were today. The men are tomorrow. We'll have full coverage of tomorrow's Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Day. I'm going to be there. I'm excited to get out to the T-Mobile Center and hear from the 16 coaches and all of the players who will be there. And we'll talk a little bit more about what to expect tomorrow coming up later on in the show. But Brett Yormark had his press conference today, which I thought was really smart. And get more people out to the women's event if you're going to be speaking at the women's event. Get it as well attended as the men. That's just smart scheduling. That's media savvy from Brett Yormark. And Brett Yormark had a lot to say today that I thought was pretty interesting. He voiced his support of the SCORE Act, which he believes is a good start to addressing the challenges moving forward with the House settlement in the NIL era. Says there have not been recent conversations about changing the current CFP, college football playoff format, though did say if there was a format where all of the Power 4 teams got the same number of automatic bids, he'd be all for it. That would be a supersized playoff if you're talking about the 4 power conferences getting 3 to 4 auto bids. But Brett Yormark's argument is we want to be on a level playing field. We're not willing to cede a bunch of bids to the Big Ten and the SEC just because. We want to be on a level playing field. He does say he's in favor of tournament expansion. That made me upset. This is a basketball tournament, March Madness expansion. Says he's in favor if only the economics make sense. Does believe that there is momentum for what he referred to as modest expansion to the tournament moving forward. So just get ready for a 76-team NCAA tournament. Probably, if not next year's tournament, then almost certainly the year after. And it'll be a little bit worse, but people will make a little bit more money, and that's the trade-off you make. But this is the part that got me really excited. I'm going to play in full. This is Blair Kirchhoff of the Kansas City Star asking the question, and this is Brett Yormark's answer regarding private equity. Remember, the Big 12 explored the thought of private equity. That got reported a couple of years ago. Now the Big Ten's member schools are thinking about it. This is what Brett Yormark had to say about that today.
The Big 12 was the first to explore private equity. The Big Ten is now talking about it. I'm just wondering where you all are on the path of consideration of private equity.
So I'm going to rinse and repeat what I've said before. That's kind of my mantra these days. It's incumbent upon all commissioners, to look at different options, that they can bring back to their boards. And some of those options make sense, some don't. But it's incumbent upon us to do that. And I've done that, and I did it early, in fact. And, we like where we are right now. That doesn't mean, we're not exploring different options. But private equity for us doesn't work. We're very bullish on our future. We're not giving a stake to anyone. We want that upside. We believe that there's real upside over the course of the next 6 to 8 years, especially when we go into that media market in January of 30. So private equity doesn't work for us. Could there be other scenarios that present themselves? Maybe, but private equity doesn't work for us.
Hallelujah and amen, Brett Yormark. Private equity doesn't work for the Big 12. It doesn't work for anybody. It's not good for anybody, but man, it felt good to hear Brett Yormark say, no, it doesn't work for us. We're not selling a stake in something we believe in to some outside investors. We believe in the upside of our league. We believe in the growth of our league, and we are not going to go out and get a payday loan. That's what private equity is, basically. It's a payday loan. That's what the Big Ten is thinking about doing. They're thinking about getting in line at the Speedy Cash, getting a payday loan. Because this is the thing about those payday loans, right? Like, oh, yeah, you get your money, get a little advance. I need cash now. Call JG Wentworth, 877 cash now. You know who's going to want that cash later? Them, your lenders. That's how it works. And they're going to want it with some interest. They're going to want their investment back and then some. Ask yourself this. Did you ever know anybody who got a payday loan for whom everything was going great? Honestly, answer that. Did you ever know anybody who went and got a payday loan and that meant, man, things are going really well in their world? That means everything's coming up roses for them in line with the Speedy Cash. No, man, you go and do that when you're desperate. You go and do that when you really absolutely have to have it, like to keep the lights on, to keep the water running. That's not a situation you want to find yourself in, and it's certainly not a situation you want to willingly put yourself in. I think it's bad news that the Big Ten is thinking about it, and I think it is wonderful news that the Big 12 has decided, no, we're going to bet on us, and private equity is not for our league. That is the best thing I have heard about the future of the Big 12 in a very long time. Shout out to Brett Yormark for that. We'll come back and wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk next. One other thing Brett Yormark said that I thought was interesting today in discussing the globalization of the Big 12, having the football games in Ireland and KU going out to London next year to play Arizona State, Baylor women's basketball's in France this November. He mentioned the idea of selling international media rights. That's pretty big business if you can pull it off. Just look at some of the numbers, what American networks pay to air, like the English Premier League or La Liga, the Spanish league, or the Bundesliga, the German soccer league. Like those are pretty significant figures. I don't know that the market for college athletics in Europe is as robust as the market for European soccer is in the United States. But if there's a piece of the pie out there, Brett Yormark is going to go get it. And again, he just said he's not going to go do it through private equity. So I support anything that does not invite that particular devil in the door. Even if it's an idea that still seems a little silly to me, the idea that the Big 12 is going to be the global leader in college athletics. Maybe they will. I wouldn't bet against Brett Yormark. A lot of what he said would happen has happened. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. In the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about Des Purnell talking spicy in Manhattan. Some billboard material for the Sunflower Showdown. And we're going to talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly, plus What Is Wrong With You, coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for hanging out on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk and our Facebook page, WIBW News. Dan Lucero and Spencer Dupuis with you. We got 2 more hours to spend together. I'm so glad you're here with us. We're going to talk some Sunflower Showdown this hour. Some eyebrow-raising remarks from a member of the K-State defense that we'll get to, and some early week thoughts on the showdown. We'll also check in with our Jayhawk Weekly segment. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, going to join us here at the bottom of this hour. We'll get his perspective from the Jayhawk side on this coming Saturday's contest between the Jayhawks and the Wildcats. K-State going for 17 in a row in the showdown. Of course, you'll be able to hear it right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 from the K-State Sports Network from Learfield, 9 a.m. pregame coverage before that 11 a.m. kick at the reimagined David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium. Apparently, they must have it around this. Must be a very popular time of year to have it because I get, you get memories of like when you were at a certain place, like Facebook will show you memories, time hop, whatever. I think I was covering a showdown around this time a few years back. I've covered it now twice at the booth and one time, which was last year, at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. And for some years, it just hasn't worked out. They haven't been able to make it for whatever reason. But it was 2 years ago. I was at a K-State game 2 years ago. I'm trying to thumb through and figure out when it was. But around late October, you typically get this game. And, boy, the last 2 years have been painfully close for Kansas to snapping that long losing streak in the series. And they feel like they're on the cusp. They feel like they've got the team to do it this year. They're going to be at home. We're going to get into that here in just a little bit. Plus, we got What Is Wrong With You coming up as well. Your comments, want to hear from you on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the number. 785-272-9429. You can also hop on the YouTube chat if you are watching our show on our YouTube video stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Get us closer to that stretch goal of 900 subscribers. If we get to 900, we'll do 580 Sports Talk karaoke. We will do the singing. You will pick the songs. That's how it'll work. But we got to get there one subscriber at a time. Who's our hero today that'll get us? We already have one new subscriber.
Yeah, we do.
So who will get us one step closer this hour as a new subscriber to 580 Sports Talk on YouTube? Before we dig into the Sunflower Showdown, real quick answer, Spencer. Who do you think the second best team in the NFC is right now? Because I don't have any idea.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a hard one.
Isn't it? Like, I think there are a lot of teams who on their day can look like the second best team in the conference. But also they have been equally capable of looking like cheeks. Like the Packers have been underwhelming after the first 3 weeks, looking like it might be them. The Eagles look great this week, but they were a team in crisis going into that game against Minnesota. It's not
Wait, who are we saying is the first best team?
Detroit.
Okay.
I really don't think that's debatable at this point. They went out with like plumbers in the secondary and they put the clamps on Baker Mayfield and company last night. I don't think it's debatable. I think
they're good at home. We see them on the road. They are 3-0 at home and 2-2 on the road. So
that's a fair point. That is absolutely a fair criticism. I just think they've got both the pedigree with this current core and the high-end talent and the culture to be able to say, yeah, I feel really good. If I'm going to bet on a horse, that's the horse I'm going to bet on. But I don't have any idea. Number two. No clue. Like, again, you want to talk about pedigree, the Eagles have it. But is their high-end talent as high-end as it's been?
They're also only +5 in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
Yeah,
to me.
played another close game. Yeah. They've just been playing close game after close game after close game.
Like even the Commanders are +10 in scoring.
That's wild. And they got a losing record, don't they? Are they 3-4?
Yeah, they're 3.
3-4. And they got a better point differential than the Eagles at 5-2. That's crazy. Mike Tenier writes about the NFL. He's got a Substack. He was a Football Outsiders guy, one of those. I think he was one of the founding Football Outsiders writers, and he wrote his Substack today. And I don't subscribe. I should because it's good stuff. The stuff you get to read above the paywall. But I think the title of his Substack article today is "Everybody is 5-2 and everyone blows." And it was just these are all the 5-2 teams in the league. This is why they're bad, but this is why they might be good.
I mean, I can't believe the 49ers are 5-2.
Yeah, that's again,
your quarterback that you have hedged, you signed him to an extension. He is out with an injury, comes back, gets injured again, out again, and Mac Jones is somehow willing your teams to victories along with CMC having out of his mind games.
I think Kyle Shanahan could win 10 games with like Jamarcus Russell at quarterback. I think he could get Nathan Peterman to a wild card. I do. I think that highly of Kyle Shanahan as an offensive mind. This is crucial. Between the months of September and January. Do not ask me about February Kyle Shanahan. We've all seen those movies.
Yeah, we have.
But from September to January, that guy can take his and beat yours and take yours and beat his on offense. He's really good.
I mean, I'm floored that they're 5-2.
Yeah.
I'm also floored that there are 3 teams in the NFC West that are 5-2.
Seahawks number 1 in DVOA. I'm not buying them as the best team in the football, but
see, they're really good on the road. They're 3-0 on the road.
Yeah, they're 10-1 on the road under Mike McDonald.
That's crazy.
It is.
Especially because they're supposed to be the home of the 12th man.
Yeah, there was a whole thing on ESPN.com yesterday about how they've lost that home mystique and why they've lost that mystique and how they're trying to get it back. And last night helped. I mean, they played really well, even though that building very noticeably deflated about, midway through quarter number 2. There was something else happening in sports in Seattle. Not across the street, but there was another Seattle team in action last night. And
that's tough to have those 2 things on the same night.
And when they lost, they showed footage, like, because I kind of had them both going. I had both games on, and they showed footage on the Monday night game. There was somebody watching the baseball game on their phone.
Yeah.
And so you could see the baseball game, and I thought ESPN was going to get in trouble for reproducing or retransmitting any part of a broadcast of Major League Baseball without express written consent.
Funniest thing I saw on social media last night was the Detroit game. So Jared Goff, his friend, is the lead singer of Mumford & Sons.
Okay.
And Mumford & Sons is on tour.
Okay.
And they had a show last night at the Caesars, whatever the arena, Little Caesars Arena or whatever.
Oh, in Detroit. Okay.
So he was there pregame, and then he had to leave to go to a concert. And I saw a video this morning. Hey, if you guys want to stream the game while you're singing our songs, we're fine with that. Because I'm a Jared Goff guy. I guess he knew him from his time in LA, and they used to golf together.
Huh. Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
But I thought that was funny. I was like, they're like okay with people. And they did that. Where was it? I think it was them or somebody was playing in Milwaukee during the Brewers series. And the concert just broke out in cheers in the middle of their song, and they were really confused.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, that building, and I think it was like 3 real-time minutes or like 5 real-time minutes after Julio Rodriguez struck out to end that American League Championship Series, Cooper Kupp threw an interception. And vibes were not great in that building at the time.
I watched the end of the world or the ALCS, and then I went to bed.
I don't blame you.
I didn't want to get into the football game because I'm one of those people that, like, if I start watching, I'm like,
you're invested. Yeah.
Even if they're not my team, I'll watch till the end of the quarter. I'll watch the next drive, and then it's like, what time did the game end? Central Time.
12:33, I believe, is when I went to bed.
Yeah, I think I was knocked out at like 10:45 or 11 o'clock. So.
I cannot tell you how much I envy you. Even though my team won the game, it was still pretty hard to watch. Anyhow, let's pivot to some college football. KU K-State Saturday, the reimagined David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium. And of all the guys to give bulletin board material on the K-State roster, I didn't expect it from Des Purnell. But Des, coming off the best game of his career, maybe feeling himself a little bit. The former Hayden Wildcat was speaking at media availability on Monday out in Manhattan and was asked about the KU offense and said, quote, they are very explosive, really good offense, really good players, whole team, defense-wise, special teams-wise. But I feel like we've got better guys. I feel like we're going to go out there and dominate. End of quote. I don't have a problem with Des Purnell or anybody, frankly, for Kansas State saying that out loud. It's what they feel. Hot mic in front of them. Don't be shy. Say what you feel. I would expect everybody in that K-State locker room to feel exactly that way, that, hey, they're good. We feel like we're better, and we feel like we're going to go win. I would expect everybody in the KU locker room to feel the opposite way. That, well, yeah, K-State's got some good players, but we're better, and we're going to go dominate on our home field. We're going to snap this long losing streak. So I've always thought the notion, especially in a rivalry game, of bulletin board material was a little bit overblown. Like, on the one hand, yeah, that's definitely going up on the bulletin board at the Anderson complex. It is. But if KU needs added motivation to get up for the in-state rivalry that they haven't won since President Obama's first term, then they might be beyond help. Like, if this is, if KU's locker room wasn't really feeling it, and then they heard what Des Purnell said, and now they want to claw down the locker room and they want it to be Saturday right now, then that's a bad sign. So I think the idea of bulletin board material can be a little bit overinflated. The more interesting thing to me is Des Purnell right? Does K-State have better guys than KU? What's interesting to me about that particular matchup, like the matchup that's most germane to Purnell, is the K-State defense against KU offense. And the KU offense has been very explosive. They have hit for a lot of really big plays this season. Down over down, the consistency hasn't been there like you would like. But they are certainly explosive. They're one of those teams where it feels like, okay, yeah, they can pop, 2 yards, and 1 yard, 5 yards, 2 yards, 70 yards. Oh, there goes Emmanuel Henderson. There goes LaShawn Williams into space. There goes Jayden Daniels, Jayden Daniels, broken field, 45-yard scramble. Like, those are the plays, those explosives that KU is so capable of. The reason they haven't been able to sustain drives consistently this year is because they haven't been as consistent up front, down over down. The interesting thing about this matchup is the Kansas State defense down over down is pretty good. They just happen to be especially susceptible to big plays.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating matchup on that side of the ball in that regard, that, like, even in the win over TCU 2 weeks ago, you had Eric McAllister hit for those 2 long touchdowns, and he had some big runs from Barnes for TCU, some big explosive, 15, 20-yard plus runs. Kansas is very capable of doing that, and very capable of having some 2-play scoring drives or some 3-play scoring drives where Emmanuel Henderson gets loose, where Daniels gets the time and hits for a deep shot, or LaShawn Williams finds a seam and starts ripping off chunk plays on the ground. So if Kansas State, I guess it's incumbent upon the Kansas State defense to, and you would think a bye week would help with this, to get the communication, the physicality, all the ducks in a row, so that you don't have the bust. Like, typically, you give up a big plays because something went wrong on the back end. Sometimes you get monstered, like Eric McAllister going down the sideline on Zayshawn Rich, just big boyed him. Michael Trigg, some of those plays that Baylor made 3 weeks ago. Sometimes you just get monstered. Sometimes the other guy's better than you. He's faster than you. He throws a better ball. You tip your cap. KU's capable of those plays. K-State can't give up those plays because it's their fault. Those are the plays they have to avoid. They have to avoid the bus. They have to avoid, we gave up a 60-yard catch and run to Emmanuel Henderson because they threw a bubble screen. We had 3 guys in the area, and they all whiffed.
Yeah.
And the 4th guy got out of his lane, and then Henderson took it to the house. If Henderson gets you one-on-one and Henderson gets you one-on-one, you think you'd live with that, like, to an extent if you're Kansas State. But it's going to be about the assignment for Kansas State. If they're able to carry out the assignment and limit the number of big plays, then it turns back on Kansas, will they be able to go out and have the kind of drives where they can play 10, 11, 12 plays and really control the ball? Because the only time we've really seen them do that with any consistency was the second half against UCF. And I don't think UCF is particularly good barometer for how good your offense or how good your running game is. So that to me is a very fascinating matchup. The other part of this game coming up on Saturday, the flip side of this is Kansas State's offense against KU's defense. KU's biggest defensive vulnerability right now is the secondary. And that was the case when the season began, and it's even more so the case now that they're dealing with all the injuries that they're dealing with on the back end. And K-State comes into this game healthy at wide receiver, as healthy as they've been all year. Jace Brown's good to go. J.B. Bradley's good to go. Jaron Tibbs is good to go. All the tight ends are good to go. For me, this feels like the potential for a big Avery Johnson game through the air. And I think it has to be for Kansas State to win. I don't think this is going to be a game where K-State is able to control the line of scrimmage and run the ball effectively. Because, again, short of the second half when they built the 2-touchdown lead against TCU, they haven't really had a game where they've done that without Dylan Edwards on the field. It doesn't sound like Dylan Edwards is going to be on the field on Saturday. So I don't think K-State is capable of turning it into that kind of a game on Saturday where Joe Jackson hammers ahead and he's getting his 4 yards a carry and K-State is keeping the KU offense off the field. I think they might like for that to be the case. But to my mind, the clearer path for a K-State victory is Avery Johnson having a big day through the air and picking on that secondary and making big plays over the middle of the field, which has been a weakness for the KU defense and their secondary all season long. I say all that to say, I'm kind of expecting a shootout here. I'm expecting a high-scoring Sunflower Showdown. That's kind of my lean this week, Spencer.
I think I would too. I think that obviously the Sunflower Showdown is such a big game for both schools that it doesn't matter. We saw the effort KU put up last year and the unfortunate losing effort for them in a bad season that kind of was a big part of their turnaround, was being able to get up for a game like that and continue through the rest of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a high-scoring one in this one.
The dichotomy of man represented on our text line in our YouTube chat. Goober Train, he's a K-Stater, says, I believe K-State will be fine if they are aggressive. The offense is starting to click. Defense was impressive against TCU. I'm confident and picks K-State win. Texter from the 316 on the text line, again, 785-272-9429, says, as a K-State fan, I'm already a tad nervous for this Saturday, and Purnell's comments did not help with that one bit. So, yeah, the duality of man, not the dichotomy, the duality of man represented there. The other thing that will probably impact this game, because it's impacted the last two, is going to be special teams.
Yeah.
Major special teams mistakes or big plays on special teams is a different way to look at it, have impacted the outcome of the game the last 2 years. You had the blocked extra point returned for 2 points by K-State 2 years ago in Lawrence. That was a huge moment in the game because it looked like KU was really going to stretch their legs with a nice lead, and then their touchdown turned into just a 4-point play because K-State got 2 points running the ball back the other way. And that was a significant moment in the game. Kept K-State in it when KU was really dominating those exchanges at that point of the game. And then last year, KU had the goof where they stepped out of bounds returning a kick at the 1-yard line. And that ended up resulting in a short field for Kansas State. And they took advantage of that. There were other mistakes. KU has been the team the last 2 years, as close as they have gotten to beating K-State and snapping this streak. They have been the team that has made the critical mistake. It was a case 2 years ago. Oh, was it Rich Miller? The dropped interception. Rich Miller, I think it was Rich Miller. Rich Miller dropped a pick six, and it was going to be the easiest pick six you or anyone had ever seen. And Rich Miller dropped it. And that gave K-State new life. And, of course, they went on to go win that game. Last year, it was the 1-yard line. Lawrence Arnold dropped a sure thing touchdown. K-State was able to drive back down the other way and score. You also had the turnover that led to Tennett's field goal there at the end of the game that ultimately gave K-State the win. So I don't mean to be reductive because you can really do this with just about every college football game and say, the team that makes fewest mistakes wins. But it has been critical mistakes. That's been the difference between the two teams last year. The talent differential, and Des Purnell may disagree, and there may be others in both locker rooms who disagree with regards to their respective side. But the talent differential has not been slimmer in this rivalry than it has been the previous 2 years, and I believe again this year. So it's not just making the fewest mistakes, it's not making the critical mistakes. And while that's been KU's downfall in the last two of these showdowns, it's kind of been K-State's thing this year to make the critical mistake.
Yeah.
So who avoids the backbreaker is going to, I think, go a long way. We'll have some more thoughts on this game, of course, as the week goes along. We'll get Michael Swain's perspective on it from the KU side. He'll join us for Jayhawk Weekly here in about 10 minutes. But right now, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back with What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. So what is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? We got two new stories competing today to try and take down our current weekly champion, the McMess. 3 kids, age 18 through 21, really just kids, got in an argument at the McDonald's. The McDonald's employee who was part of the discussion pulled out a gun, and in a scuffle, the gun went off and hit one of the customers in the neck. Customer's not always right. At least he is all right, thankfully. Not a life-threatening situation there, thank goodness. But, yeah, apparently...
the employee picked up the round.
Yeah, the employee was tampering with evidence. Like, this is Florida we're talking about. Like, yeah, man, you got the stand your ground laws in Florida, right? But, yeah, don't tamper with the evidence. Don't pocket the shell, man. Yeah. You got to keep that out for the police. Anyway, the McMess, that's our current champ. Spencer, why don't you go first today?
That's a pretty cut and dry story here. We're going to the great state of West by God, Virginia, Fairmont to be exact. A man was arrested after getting into a fight with his girlfriend and selling her belongings on Facebook Marketplace. Christopher Scott, 35 of Fairmont, was charged with grand larceny for listing and selling approximately $1,800 of his girlfriend's belongings online, said police. He is currently in the North Central Regional Jail with no bond set.
They just sold her stuff. Just
got mad at her and said, I'm going to start listing this stuff.
Wow. Yeah, pretty simple story. Yeah, he owes that young woman Those are some money
Yeah.
or some things. Like I wouldn't want the money. Like, oh, you got some cash for it. That's cool. I want my things back.
Yeah.
You're gonna go and you're gonna go get me my things. Those are mine. Those belong to me. You're gonna go get them back for me. I don't want the cash. It doesn't do anything. That didn't do anything for me. I want my stuff. For my story today, I'm going to Florida today. And it's me with the Florida story today. We're going to Gainesville. Putnam County Sheriff's deputies arrested a man after they say he threatened his neighbor with a knife. 61-year-old Minor Catledge. That's Minor. Although he's 61 years old, he's anything but. Minor Catledge arrested on the charge of aggravated assault. Deputies say Catledge confronted his neighbor when she was walking her dog on a public path adjacent to his property. According to the victim, Catledge claimed the public path was his property and threatened to eat her dog if she trespassed again. Eat her dog is in quotes. Deputies responded and spoke to Catledge about the property dispute. They left believing the incident was resolved. It was not. About an hour later, Catledge went onto the victim's property and began to threaten her and her family with a knife. While on the way to jail, Catledge told deputies he was going to beat the victim when he got out.
Jeez.
Not a way to get out faster, as it happens. When you tell the police, I'm going to beat that person up. That person I was just threatening with a knife, yeah, I'm going to beat him up. And I might eat their little dog, too. That's wild threat. Not like I'm going to hurt your dog or I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to eat your dog. That's crazy. Public paths do not belong to anybody. They belong to the public. That's why they're called public paths. Also, man, it's a dog. Chill out.
Yeah,
anyway, so what do we got today? Eat your dog guy or sold his girlfriend stuff guy?
I think I got eat your dog guy. It's bizarre.
It is bizarre.
Public path.
Does eat your dog guy beat the McMess? I think it does.
I don't know, man. Dude picked up his own round after he shot it because he didn't. I don't even know why.
I guess.
And then he got arrested. He could have literally been standing
Yeah,
ground law.
he could have been fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was kind of dumb. Also, the fact that there was just a gun behind the counter at the McDonald's.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably not the case at most McDonald's. I could be wrong. Maybe every McDonald's has there's the staff blower. It's located under the fries or wherever. Maybe that's how McDonald's gets down, and we just didn't know it until now. But I kind of have a feeling that's an exclusive to Florida kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll go with the McMess. That one survives. The McMess continues on as our weekly champion here on What Is Wrong With You. We're going to take a short time out. When we come back, Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joins us for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Flaming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael joins us every week here at this time for Jayhawk Weekly, and you can check out his work again at Fog.net. And if you're a VIP subscriber to 24/7 Sports Network, you can get access to all of his VIP content, and it is well worth the cost and the read. Michael, it's Sunflower Showdown week. We had a chance to hear from Lance Leipold earlier this week. What do you judge is this program's attitude towards this particular version of the Showdown, knowing that they've been so close the last 2 years, knowing that this is a game that they're trying to win so they could stay above 500 and stay on the fringes of the Big 12 championship game race? There's always a lot that goes into this game, but is there maybe even a heightened sense of urgency, a heightened buzz relative to even previous years going into this one?
That's a good question. This game week reminds me a lot of the Missouri game week, where it's very clear that everyone was told, don't say anything interesting, because we talked to Leipold obviously on Monday, and then coordinators and players today, and it was probably the single most boring coordinator and player interview session that we've had all year, and that's saying something. So I think from KU, it's one of those situations where they're not trying to give out bulletin board material, but inside the program, Leipold talked about the fact that they discussed the streak with the players, but I don't think this is something where they want to make a big deal out of it, right? Leipold was kind of asked as a prelude to a question your favorite in the game. And it's it's the first time that's happened since 2009. So it's one of these situations where I don't think from inside the walls, they are trying to make it some big thing where it's quote unquote, we have to do it this week. I think it's different. I think it's the approach of it's another game on the schedule. You treat it like any other game while understanding the stakes for people who are KU fans and KU adjacent in the state of Kansas. And so I think you can put this all together and balance the two where, there's pressure on KU. There is at home. Again, it's probably the most beatable K-State team in terms of a matchup. It's probably one of the more favorable ones in terms of just the way the season's gone for these two teams. But at the end of the day, you got to go out and play and win. And KU has not done that. They've shot themselves in the foot so many times, and they've been close under Leipold. And sure, that was probably nice, in 2022 to somewhat be in the room, and then very much so in 2023 to have a chance to win it. But it's long past due for KU to snap the streak. So from a KU perspective, I get the sense that they understand what's at stake this week, but I also don't think they're trying to build this thing up to be a really huge game where then all of a sudden if you lose, well, then you're looking ahead and saying, well, it's season over. You can't have that if you're KU, right? If you lose this game, you still got to go out and play the rest of the season and try and make a bowl game. Whereas the other side of it, if you win, then that's all gravy, but the same still applies where, hey, you still got to go out and clinch bowl eligibility and try to get as many wins as possible. So it's one of those balancing acts, but I don't think you're going to see, KU giving out bulletin board material talking about, how much it has to be the year and all that type of stuff. I think for KU, it's going to be very quiet and then, try and do it on game day. And whatever happens, happens.
What do you see as Kansas's biggest advantage in this matchup? The thing that they've got to really press in order to snap that 16-game skid in this rivalry?
Yeah, I think KU can't shoot themselves in the foot. Man, you look at the last couple of years, last year you got Jameel Cross stepping out of bounds on a kickoff and a safety comes after that. You can go back to 2023 and the blocked PAT that's returned for 2 points. You can go to the drop pick 6 in 2023. Last year, you can go to the end of the game. KU's winning, and they just can't close out the contest. It's a game that KU's been close, but they find ways to shoot themselves in the foot to lose the game. And the issue you probably could say is, well, man, have there been situations this year where KU's been in a close game late and has made you super confident that they're going to turn the game around? I don't think so. So it's a situation for KU in this game where they really have to go out and play a clean game. You can look at the special teams where that's been a huge advantage for K-State. Well, KU special teams come into this game as one of the best units in the country. Turnovers. KU's lost the turnover margin in the last 3 years. KU is what? I think top 25 in the country in total turnovers with 5 all year. Like, there's some things here that are adding up for KU to not do the same things they've done over the last few years. But having it on paper versus doing it in person on the field, when it comes down to it, very different thing. So KU's got to play a clean game. I think offensively, KU's got to get some explosive plays. This is the K-State defense that gives up explosive plays. They are very consistent down to down, but then there's the one back-breaking play. And to some degree, it's a little bit similar to KU's defense, where KU's defense has equally been, had its moment. Definitely not as consistent as K-State's, but it's had its moments. And then it's those back-breaking plays, against Missouri, it's the 3rd and 4th downs. Against Cincinnati, it's those big explosive plays. Against Texas Tech, it's the explosive runs. Like, KU's defense has had some of those issues. Well, K-State has too. So I look at this game. Can KU play a clean game? Can they limit explosives defensively? Can they create explosive plays offensively? If KU goes out and checks those boxes, like, I think you feel pretty good about what KU can do, because if all of a sudden KU is limiting explosive plays, that means they're getting in the backfield. You're creating tackles for loss, putting K-State behind the chains. You're forcing Avery Johnson to beat you with his arm, right? Those are the situations you want to be in if you're KU. So those are some of the keys, I think.
What impact do you think the crowd can play on Saturday? Because I have noticed in being at the booth so far this season, with the redone portion of the stadium being closer, more on top of the action itself, that crowd noise comes into play in a way that I don't know that it ever really did at the old David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium in that old configuration. How much impact do you think that the crowd can have? And do you think Kansas is counting on a little help from their 12th man on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it can have a big impact, and I think even you go back to the old stadium and it was starting to have that impact. You look at some of the sellouts in 2023 and obviously 2022. There were some atmospheres, right, that were very loud, but it is a different type of noise right now with the new West Side and North End, where it's on top of the field, right? If you're standing on the sideline, it feels like everything's on top of you, and so that can have a big impact. And I'm very interested to see what the atmosphere is like, because you can look at the games this year, man. The home games have kind of stunk. Fresno State was obviously an incredible atmosphere for the first half, but man, second half, it was a boring game. Wagner, can't really read into it. West Virginia stunk. That was an ugly game and not one that was very enthusiastic from a fan perspective. And then the Cincinnati game is, I think for me, a super disappointing one, where that was a one-score game in the second half, and the stadium was maybe 60% full after being full for the start. So I don't think you're going to see that this week, but man, it's going to be one of those where I think this is the real first time I feel like we're going to get a real good sense of, hey, what does the new booth sound like? Especially with the new, North and West, and they'll do the East next, but it's going to be a really good, I think, baseline for what this stadium can be.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. And Michael, do you think that this week maybe Jim Zabrowski's going to open up the passing game a little bit more when it comes to deep balls? It seems like that happened a few games ago, but the last few games it hasn't been able to get going for KU. And it seems like the beginning of the year, that's where they were excelling, and K-State seems to give up a lot of deep balls over the last few games.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of factors in that, right? First of all, KU's got to pass protect. Texas Tech did a great job of getting after Jalen, and there was a situation where KU just did not have the time to run kind of deeper passing concepts. And then with the way the game state was, right, Tech can just go rush 4, drop 7, play whatever, quarters coverage, and keep everything in front. And that's what they did, and that made it really hard. I think for KU, what they got to do this weekend that they maybe haven't done recently is get the run game going, force K-State to send another man in the box, where all of a sudden there is a little bit more space to go. I think you can look at, what K-State's done where they switched up to a 4-man front. They're playing a little bit more of that kind of 4-2-5-ish look. And can you kind of get that 5th defensive back to have to stay in the box, where all of a sudden there's just a lot more space, 15 plus yards down the field. So obviously KU super explosive, I think, through kind of the first 5 games of the year. UCF with the rain and with just the game state of that one, not as explosive. And then obviously explain Texas Tech. So I think for KU, this is the type of game where I just think generally, I'd love to see some more creative stuff. I just don't think we've seen that from KU in the run game, right? Where's the QB option? Where's some of just a more creative outside zone looks? It feels like KU too often is just running between the tackles and trying to move people off the ball. And look, this offensive line is not last year's offensive line where they have, multiple NFL guys. Like, it's just not played like that. So I think generally, right, this is a game where the playbook's got to be open. K's got to be able to run the ball at least a little bit to get K-State to at least account for the run. You can't have this be a game where Jalen's got drop back and pass. K-State's rushing 4, dropping 7 guys. And all of a sudden, you got to pick your way through, and you got to be a consistent passing attack rather than one that, hey, you rip off a 50-yard pass, you flip the field, and all of a sudden you got some momentum. So I agree. I think this is a big game for KU offensively. If there's a unit that's going, you have to go out and win the football game. It's KU's offense. They got to get up above 30 points to win this game, I think.
Let's pivot from football to basketball. Late night at the Fog was last week. What was your primary takeaway from getting to see the Jayhawks on the floor competing in that scrimmage setting?
Late night doesn't change, does it? The scrimmages are ugly. Doesn't matter what Bill Self says beforehand. How many years in a row has it been that he comes out, says the crowd, you guys want to see a competitive scrimmage? Crowd's like, yeah. And the players are like, no, we're not giving you competitive scrimmage. It's going to look like a rec game. Well, look, I think the athleticism for this team is just going to be something that's going to be very refreshing to watch. Some of it was improved last year, but when your starting point guard and starting center are C athletes, it's tough to have that same level pop. Obviously, Flory now is going to be a massive upgrade athleticism-wise. Center, obviously, Darren Peterson, huge upgrade at guard. But even you look on the wing, right? You got Cole Rosario, Jayden Dawson, Melvin Council, Trey White, like Samiz Calderon. Don't know how much he's going to play, but man, he can jump out of the gym. So yeah, it's one of those where it's hard to read into the, kind of the first scrimmage, if you will. Look, I'm not really even going to read too much into the game this weekend because KU has lost a lot of times they've done this exhibition on the road thing against, high major teams. They lose this game. And Bill Self does some weird stuff with the rotation. So I don't know if we can read too much into really the first 2 times you're seeing this team play, but I do know one thing. This team's going to be more athletic and a lot more dynamic than I think the last 2 years.
I won't ask you to give away your preseason Big 12 media poll. I filled mine out last week. I won't give mine away until they release the poll next week. But where is your thought at what is KU's ceiling? Let me ask you that. Are you comfortable saying they have a league championship ceiling, or do you feel like it's more top 3, top 4 kind of ceiling?
Yeah, they can win the league. They can win the league. Some things have to go right. You got to have Darren Peterson play like an All-American. You got to have some of those kind of role players that are veterans like Trey White, Melvin Council, Jayden Dawson. Those guys have to play really well. And Floyd Bedunga's got to take a huge leap and be much more consistent because you can't go out there and have Floyd getting fouls and all of a sudden Paul Mbia is having to play, 25 minutes a game. Like that's just not a situation you want to be in. So look, there's a pathway for KU to win the Big 12. I think they could do it. Now, is that going to be on what you're going to put your money down? Like probably not. But they have a ceiling of a team that go in the league. What's the floor? 6th, 5th in the league, probably. Honestly, probably where they're picked right now in the preseason. I think people are probably underrating what KU is just due to the fact of what the last few years have been and how ugly they have gotten. But look, this is a team that I think has the ability to go and be competitive and do a really good job in Big 12. The good part for KU, I think, is the schedule generally, I think, is pretty manageable. It's one, obviously, play Arizona twice. That's tough. Play Iowa State twice, sure. But it's one of those where KU's not playing Houston twice, which I think is a big win after the last couple of years where that's been 2 really hard games. And I just think some of the way the home and road splits ended up working out, it looks good for KU. So I think generally it's a team that I think you can easily see a pathway for them to win the league. But again, I think rightfully so, they're not picked to win the league. I think they're probably a little underrated compared to some of, the other teams kind of in that 2, 3, 4, 5 range. But that's what makes the Big 12 so interesting, right? Is the fact that, hey, you got to go out and play the games. And it's a really competitive league where I think a lot of times it comes down to the schedule, right? Who are the teams you are playing twice? Because that can go a long way in determining how your season plays out.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber, Sunflower Showdown week, and start a college basketball right around the corner. Great time to become a VIP over at 24/7 Sports Network. Michael joins us every Tuesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you guys next week.
That is Michael Swain. We will step aside for a timeout, come back. with a little random question Tuesday to wrap up this 4 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk. In honor, not really honor, of the Mariners losing Game 7 of the American League Championship Series last night. Never been closer to a World Series. They're still the only team to never get to one. I would be catatonic if I were a Mariners fan today. What is the longest it has taken you to recover from one of your favorite team's defeats? Like the disappointment of it. What was the longest it took to shake off the sting of one of your favorite team's losses?
It's got to be when I was in high school, Capitals. I mean, all those
Playoff
years
loss.
of getting to the playoffs and then never being able to get past the second round, never being able to get past the Penguins or the Rangers.
Sure. It's the annual thing at that point.
Yeah, it was just like, hey, we'll make the playoffs. We'll be great in the regular season. And then come the Islanders, Penguins, or Rangers, season's over.
Easy answer for me, Super Bowl 49. I went to bed. Like I am, that is not an exaggeration. You know when the Super Bowl ends, Central Time. It usually ends around like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I turned off the TV as soon as it was clear that there was not going to be an overturn or something that was going to overturn Malcolm Butler's interception in the end zone. I turned the TV off and I turned all the lights off in the house and I went to bed. I was still wearing the same clothes. I just crawled into bed and I think I looked at the ceiling until I fell asleep, which was probably sometime around 2 a.m. And then the next day I woke up and I was still pretty catatonic. Took a very long walk after that. But I survived that, so nothing that happens to one of my favorite teams can ever hurt me as bad as that hurt. That's my random question today.
Random question. We're getting into the big fall time right now.
Yeah.
Like you got
hockey's already rolling.
You gotta wear a sweatshirt out the door in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, you meant weather. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you were talking sports. We're talking weather. Yeah, I got a hoodie on today, man. It's hoodie season. I'm digging those out. Yeah.
What is your favorite like fall comfort food?
Fall comfort food. That's a great question.
Mine is potato soup.
Potato
soup on a Sunday, watching football. That just hits.
It is soup season. My wife makes a wonderful potato soup. It is not the most complicated recipe in the world, but my wife has it down.
Yeah,
it is phenomenal. And I would eat a bowl of that right this second while we're talking about it. So, yeah, soup, chili, like a good chili.
Yeah.
Is also a big fall thing. Pot pie. My wife makes a really good chicken pot pie. So yes, this pot pie season. There's things that are like really warm and hearty like that are my fall favorites.
Yeah.
We have a vote for chili and cinnamon rolls from Andrew in the YouTube comments. Is that a new thing to you when you got out here?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because it was a new thing to me too. Before I lived in Nebraska before I moved out to Kansas. And Nebraska's got this restaurant called Runza. And Runza's whole thing is they got the chili and cinnamon rolls in the fall and the winter. And I was mystified. Like, why would you think those two things taste good together?
Exactly.
Like, I still don't understand it. Like, chili, good. Cinnamon rolls, great. Eating the two of them together to me is just like, I don't know, man.
Even somebody told me like, oh, well, you just eat it right after. Like,
you don't
chili.
eat them together. At first, I was like, y'all eat them together? And they're like, no, you don't eat them together, you moron. You eat one and then you eat the other. So,
no.
I don't know about the flavor profile there. Like, how are you
no.
cleansing the palate between? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I'm still iffy on it. Haven't come around all the way to that. There's a lot of Midwestern traditions I've come around to. That right now is not one of them. But maybe someday. I'll live here long enough. Maybe someday. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we got headlines. We're going to talk a little Commanders, and we're going to get into Big 12 Basketball Media Day. 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3, final hour of this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. If you're just joining us, welcome in. If you've been hanging out with us throughout the program, thanks for doing so. We appreciate you being along and spending some time with us here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color, our YouTube feed, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the channel. And you can also watch our video stream on Facebook at WIBW News. I'm Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is here. Brendan Dorzinski is off today. Tomorrow, you will hear from me in absentia. I will not be in studio tomorrow. I will be heading out to Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Day, spending the afternoon with all 16 of the men's basketball head coaches and all of the players and all of the media members and hopefully some of the mascots hang around because they were all there today for Women's Basketball Media Day. So hopefully we see some more mascots tomorrow because they're my favorite part. It's a very surreal, it's a very surreal event. Like I remember last year I went and at 9 o'clock in the morning and I forget who was about to hit the podium and I'm sitting down and 3 tables over, the Cincinnati mascot is eating a banana. And I just said, well, this must be Big 12 Media Days. If it's 9 a.m. and the Cincinnati mascot is eating a banana, then I must be at a Big 12 media event. We'll preview it a little bit later on this hour, talk about who we're looking forward to hearing from at tomorrow's Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Day. On the show tomorrow, like I said, you'll hear from me. I'll be on my way home when you hear from me. Brendan and Spencer are going to hold it down in studio. You're going to hear from Jerome Tang and Bill Self. You're going to hear from the KU and the K-State contingents as well. This is an interesting question that just filtered across the text line. And it's in the spirit of Random Question Tuesday, but it also kind of dovetails talking about the Big 12 media days going on at the T-Mobile Center. Question is, do you have sporting events that you especially like to cover or try to avoid? I'm sure you can relate to this sentiment, Spencer. We're just lucky that we get to go. Like the feeling of getting to be in the place where the big event is happening is just, it's a privilege. Is one of the very cool things about doing this job. So I would never say like there is now, like, was I particularly eager to make the hour drive on a Tuesday night to watch like a Bruce Weber K-State basketball team play like another bad Big 12 team at the time? Did I make use of the press pass for every one of those games? No, I did not. So like there are going to be times where you look at the event and say, you know what? I think I will just enjoy this one from my couch. I think the maximum amount of effort I'm going to put in for this particular matchup, K-State and KU football games against FCS teams, pretty similar sort of thought process there. Like, I think I can just watch this one on the plus tonight and get the same level of insight. So I don't know that I try to avoid those necessarily, but it kind of works out that's, you know, I have a family and I like to spend some Saturdays with my wife and my son. But as far as
I look forward to that now, I'm looking forward to the Big 12 tournament for basketball already.
Isn't that a cool event?
Like even if you get to go for 1 or 2 games, it's just such a cool event.
My favorite events to cover are those tournaments. It's NCAA tournament or Big 12 tournament, just where there's games going on all day. Those are a blast.
I think it became my favorite because when I first started working here, I was only doing sports. So I got the opportunity to go with you and just go for the day. Like, not just go for the teams that we cover, but like the whole event. Like, see the whole event, see everything, not just, hey, I'm there to cover the teams that we cover. It's like the whole event is really cool. So that gave me like, I can go next year. Ooh, I can go to this game. I can find myself a way to get to this game, even though I'm doing a lot more different things now that like, I'm just looking forward to finding like a window, like hopefully K-State or KU get a night game that I can find my way there.
Yeah. So yeah. And I like the media day events too. It feels like media days feels like the first day of school. Where everybody's optimistic, everybody's, looking sharp in their new clothes and Everybody gets excited to talk about their sport, and it makes the season feel like it's right around the corner, which, football, you still get like a month and a half before you start seeing games. But the basketball, like K-State plays Mizzou in an exhibition game on Friday night. You're going to be able to hear that here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 if you want to stay up, because it doesn't tip until 9 p.m. Central Time for some reason. But like, there's exhibition games happening Friday for K-State. So it is extremely right around the corner. But those events are fun to me too. You get to schmooze with the media members, but you also, it's the optimism, it's the excitement. Like that's just a cool thing to be around. It's a cool energy to be around the media day events. And I enjoy those. I had a question if we do the MIAA media days. Typically we do. Typically we send Brendan out to those. Didn't work out to go to the basketball one this year, but he was at the football one. And always send him out and get stuff from the Washburn folks at the MIAA media days as well. I do. I like media days. Media days, first day of school. I do. I like the buzz. It's going to be fun to be there tomorrow. And we hope you enjoy all the content we bring you from Big 12 media days tomorrow here on the program. Still to come on today's show, Jayden Daniels may not play for the Commanders on Monday night. That is a realistic
Might not be the worst thing.
Possibility that he would not go after he tweaked his hamstring against the Cowboys on Sunday. Doesn't sound like a long-term injury, which is a great thing. But you got to believe that there's a realistic chance at this point. I wouldn't put a percentage on it, but you got to believe that there is a realistic chance that the Commanders do not have Jayden Daniels on Monday night.
They are looking to trend to have two of their top receivers.
So that's going to beg the question: what does the offense look like without Daniels? Like, they get healthy at some other spots. How much does that help them? What does it look like with Mariota, their backup quarterback, running the show? And like I mentioned, we'll talk some Big 12 basketball media days as well. And we want to hear from you. We appreciate the text. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. Also, everybody who has been in on the YouTube chat today, it's been a very lively chat. We've seen some new faces, some non-regulars in there with our regulars in the chat, which we love to see. Again, if you're watching the show on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, we have the live chat running on the mobile device and in the web browser throughout the live broadcast of the show. You jump on in, say hello, interact with your fellow listeners. Mark B asked me, you didn't want to go to those K-State Weber games and hear about the play hard chart after the games? Man, people hated that damn play hard chart. People were tired of hearing, like, the play hard chart, that goes over really well when you show up and you take Frank Martin's players and you win the conference. Then the play hard chart plays really, really well. When you lose to Fort Hays State, nobody ever wants to hear about the play hard chart ever again. So, and I say this as somebody who, I like Bruce Weber. Like, personally, I enjoy Bruce Weber. I can't say like we were pals or knew each other really well, but I always enjoyed interviewing him, talking to him. We used to have him. He'd come on the show every couple of weeks on 580 Sports Talk, and enjoyed those opportunities to speak with him. I'm not going to speak ill of Bruce Weber, the person, but, things run their course. And that had definitely run its course by the time the Weber era ended in Manhattan. Anyhow, appreciate hearing from you folks on 580 Sports Talk today. Let's get to some headlines, shall we? Let's get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll start with some injury news from around the National Football League. We're still a day away from seeing some injury reports, participation reports, and we're 2 days away from seeing those for the Chiefs and the Commanders because it's a Monday night game. But a couple of injury notes and transactions to get to on this Tuesday across the NFL. It is bad news for Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans. A broken collarbone suffered in last night's loss to the Lions is going to cost him, according to head coach Todd Bowles, most of the rest of the season. Don't know exactly what that means, but it's going to be a good while before we see Mike Evans on the field again for the Buccaneers. Unfortunately, that will also bring to an end his streak that started when he was a rookie of consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons, a streak that had continued from his rookie year to last season, but will not continue this year. Also, speaking of top-tier wide receivers who got dinged on Monday night, Nico Collins of the Texans suffered a concussion in the second half of Houston's loss at Seattle. Jalen Noel from Iowa State really stepped up, played well in his absence, but Collins has a concussion. He'll be monitored moving forward for the Texans. The Minnesota Vikings play on Thursday. They open up week 8 with their Thursday night football clash with the Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi Stadium. and they will be doing so with Carson Wentz at quarterback again. They're going to stick with him as QB1. Kevin O'Connell citing a short week of preparation for J.J. McCarthy. He's continuing to work his way back from his right ankle sprain. He'll be the emergency quarterback, but O'Connell saying he's just not all the way where he needs to be to get back and start a game. So it'll be Carson Wentz again at quarterback for the Vikings on Thursday. A couple of other NFL transactions to give you. Mention this in the 3 o'clock hour. Brandon Graham comes out of retirement to rejoin the only NFL franchise he's ever known, the Philadelphia Eagles, on a one-year deal. It will be his 16th NFL season as he continues to build on his own record of being the longest tenured program or player rather in franchise history. Zadarius Smith surprisingly retired last week, and that weakened an already struggling pass rush group for the Eagles because he was leading that group of players in sacks. Zadarius Smith had a sack and a half. That was more than any other edge on the Eagles roster, and he's not playing any more football. So Brandon Graham coming off the couch to rejoin the Eagles on a one-year deal. Another NFC East transaction. The Giants have waived kicker Jude McAtamney. I don't know that ever again. That dude missed 2 extra points, neither of them blocked, in a game that his team lost by 1 to the Broncos on Sunday. He was the first kicker to ever do that. And he has been cut. Graham Gano is eligible to return from injured reserve. The Giants also have veteran Younghoe Koo on the practice squad. So they got better options. So they are moving on from McTammany. Also, the Atlanta Falcons have released Ray McCloud. He was sent home last week, and the team would not elaborate on why, other than to say it was not necessarily disciplinary in nature. And now he has been released outright from the Falcons. So that is your NFL injury and transaction update for this Tuesday. Next headline, Spencer.
Yes, it's the NBA season opens tonight.
Yes, it does.
And very special because it is back on NBC.
Yes, it is. Oh.
Round ball rock. Oh, I had to play it. That's one of my favorite sports games.
Basketball, give me the ball because I'm gonna dunk it.
I'm not a big NBA guy, but that's one of my favorite themes out there.
Yeah, it's an all-time. It's top 2 all-time, and it ain't number 2.
Yeah.
NBC and Peacock carrying tonight's season opening doubleheader. Now, I think the way it works is it's based on your time zone, which game you get on NBC and which game you have to stream. Yeah. Our NBC game will be the first game of the doubleheader, ring night in Oklahoma City. The defending champion Thunder opening their season against the Rockets. The late game will be the LeBron-less Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron's got that sciatica because he's old. He's not going to play in the opener for the first time in his NBA career. The Lakers taking on the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry's old too. His sciatica.
I didn't realize how they were doing the schedule. So there'll be most nights, most Tuesdays, there'll be 2 games on the platform of NBC/Peacock, broadcasted by them. If you're in the East Coast, it's the East Coast game, and that'll most likely be on NBC.
Yeah.
And then the West Coast games are the Peacock games.
Yes,
for a lot of
where the flip side will be if you're on the West Coast. Basically, if it's going to be on before your local news, that's the game you get. Yeah. If it's going to be on, if it's right before your local news, like the
Jimmy Fallon
Rockets Thunder will be on before Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, on the West Coast. So that game going to be streamed. So yeah, that's how they're going to do that for their 6:30 tip-off time schedule. We'll see how close they get to the actual scheduled start time. Because ESPN and TNT always put their games off 20 minutes after the scheduled start time. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I mean, it's ring night in Oklahoma City. They may have a delayed start anyway, but that's a 6:30 start. The Thunder get their rings and open their title defense against Kevin Durant's Rockets. They get Warriors as the Lakers. Those are the only NBA games on the schedule tonight. The rest of the league opens throughout the week. How them Wizards look?
They're rebuilding. I think they might. I don't want them to win anything if they can rebuild.
It sounds like they're finally like committed to rebuilding the right way and not like chasing 38 wins. The thing that they've been doing for the better part of their
Well,
history.
the problem is if they get up, like if they somehow get there, it's like, oh yeah, somehow they're in contention because just the bottom part of the East like sucks.
Always.
Like they're not eliminated until like the final 3 weeks of the season because the East is so bad.
They've got such a, I remember that guy from college roster. Like, oh, hey, Cam Whitmore, yeah. Justin Champagny. I remember him for Pittsburgh lighting up K-State Fort Myers tournament some years back. There's Malachi Brandon from Ohio State. I remember these guys. CJ McCollum is probably good.
Yeah, I saw that he was chatting up with the owner.
My favorite team has a brighter outlook for 2025.
Well, yeah, they just re-signed somebody.
Yes, Christian Brown got a big bag from the Nuggets, and they've got the best bet they've had. They're actually a functional backup center this year instead of the corpse of DeAndre Jordan playing basically a glorified assistant coach 15 minutes a night to back up Nikola Jokic. They've got a functional backup center this year, Jonas Valanciunas, and they've got some other good depth. They do not have Michael Porter, who spent the entire summer whiling out on every podcast that would have him. I'm glad to be rid of Michael Porter Jr. at this point. They got Cam Johnson, who's better at most things that aren't shooting, better at everything else. Tim Hardaway Jr. is there. Bruce Brown is back. Cowboy Bruce, the only NBA player to want to play in Denver. Like, to want to play there so bad that he'd take a better in Denver to play in Denver. Shout out to Brucey B. A lot of people pick the Nuggets. Like, I've been reading a lot of the previews, and the Thunder are the betting favorite. And even I would have to admit they have to beat the roster, not the bottom. There are a lot of people out there. Like, I'm reading previews from The Athletic, The Ringer, ESPN. A lot of people pick.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you not?
A lot of people pick them. And I will defer to their expertise. And
also, I did not realize the Wizards have Chris Middleton.
yeah, they do. Yeah, Chris Middleton plays for them.
And CJ McCollum, all 30, 30, 30.
Yeah, I guess I'm not. They got Texas 75 don't sleep on the Rockets. I don't think the Rockets work. Number one, it's hard to make Kevin Durant work at this stage in his career because you have to defer to him. But I like the Rockets a lot better before Fred VanVleet tore his ACL. I would have said the Rockets were a legit Western contender before they lost VanVleet. And without him, they don't really have any ball handling guards. And I think that's going to be kind of a problem. So I think the Rockets are good. I would stop short. I might have felt like they were a contender if VanVleet were healthy. I would stop short of calling them a contender. Here's the list of teams I think can win the NBA championship. We're going a little long on NBA. I know it's not an NBA market, but it's the start of the season. Forgive us. We're not gonna give you NBA roundup every day. So forgive us this indulgence.
We're only doing that in June.
Yeah, we do playoff roundup. That's it. Forgive us this indulgence one time if you're not NBA people. The teams that I think can win the NBA championship. Yeah, it's not a super long list. It's the Thunder. It's the Nuggets. It might be it, man. I don't see the breakthrough coming for the Rockets. I think the Warriors are too old. I think the Lakers are not deep. Like, the Lakers have 3 good basketball players. When your third best player is Austin Reeves, you're not good enough to win a championship. I'm sorry. That team is not good enough to win a championship. And then out east, I don't know. Like, somebody's got to win the East. I have no idea who it's going to be. Absolutely no idea. Maybe it's Orlando. Maybe Atlanta breaks through. Like, Boston lost Jason Tatum. They're not really, I think, a real contender this year. Indiana went to the finals last year, lost Tyrese Halliburton for the season. They're definitely not a contender this year without him and Miles Turner.
That's so brutal.
It sucks.
To have those injuries that happen, and then they're like, oh, yeah, the reality is we're not getting him back to start the season.
Philadelphia is going to be sick for the 25 games Joel Embiid is healthy. They're going to look like world beaters, and then Embiid's going to fall down, go boom, and get hurt like he always does. And I hate that for Joel Embiid, by the way, for the record. But hey, it is what it is, man.
I have this
it's
weird
the same
feeling
thing with the Clippers. It's the same thing with the Clippers. Like, Kawhi Leonard, when he's out there, he can play at a really high level. He's also getting older, and he's never out there for enough games, man. Like, there's a reason they haven't won anything.
So I don't know how this is going to affect things, but the Commanders owner is also the owner of the 76ers and the Devils.
Yeah, Josh Harris, right?
Josh Harris just hired full-time Bob Myers to be the president of sports. So I don't know how much he's going to be tinkering in on the 76ers.
Yeah,
but
I think his is more broad oversight.
I guess. But I mean, like, you would think maybe he focuses a little bit on the 76ers.
Maybe basketball.
My only thought is because Josh is so hyper-focused on the Commanders that he trusts Bob so much that why don't you help me focus on the 76ers? You're a basketball guy, Bob.
Again, there's a lot of teams like in theory it could work. Like Golden State's got championship pedigree. In theory that could work, but I think in practice they're too old. The Lakers have LeBron and Luka Doncic. In theory that could work. In practice, their third best player is Austin Reeves, and their fourth best player is you. Like they have absolutely no depth, and who knows how far LeBron can get into a season at this point. I worry about Houston's lack of ball handling. I worry about Dallas. They're not going to have Kyrie Irving for at least half the season, and Anthony Davis. Speaking of people who are made of glass, like he's obviously liable to get hurt at some point. Like, I don't know. It feels like Oklahoma City and Denver and everybody else. I think those are the deepest rosters. Certainly the Thunder are younger than Denver, but the youngest, the spryest rosters. Somebody's got to come out of the East. Maybe it's Milwaukee. There's a shout for the Bucks. Maybe it's Milwaukee. Giannis is probably the third best basketball player in the world. Maybe I put him over SGA. I'm still a hater. Minnesota will be good again, but Anthony Edwards isn't serious enough to lead a championship run. He's just not a serious person, and I think that will inhibit Minnesota. Also, we've seen what that looks like when they get to the conference finals. 2 different years we've seen what that looks like. So, Wemby and the Spurs will be fun to watch. Like, there's a lot of teams that are really, really good, but I think getting to the finish line, you got to have you have to be durable to get to the finish line in the NBA. And I mean, I think the Pacers and the Celtics kind of proved last year you're durable until you're not. But I think there are a lot more teams with questions. I think the teams with the fewest questions, let me put it that way. The teams with the fewest question marks are Oklahoma City and Denver. I think every other team's got like legitimate, like big 72-point bold font question marks, where Oklahoma City and Denver, I don't think have those. So that's that's how I power rank it.
Before we finish NBA talk, for those wondering, because this is the start, as we mentioned, NBC Peacock taking over a lot of the broadcasting.
Yes.
Start of the new media rights deal.
Amazon Prime will be a big broadcaster this year as well.
So on Sundays, you can catch it. You can catch the NBA on ABC, Peacock, and NBC at some point this year. Mm-hmm. Mondays is Peacock. The national games are only on Peacock Mondays. Tuesdays, you have Peacock and NBC, like we mentioned. Wednesdays, it'll be on ESPN, and Christmas, and obviously whatever. Thursday, I believe, after the NFL season ends, you will see Thursday night NBA games on Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday, you'll get ESPN and Prime, and Saturday, you'll get ABC and Prime.
That is entirely too much for me to keep track of.
There's a graphic that Front Office Sports put out. So.
That will be, I'm sure, helpful. Anyway, I'll go ahead and say Nuggets over Magic in the finals. I'll go with a surprise Eastern winner like last year. I'll go with the Magic. I like Paolo Banchero. That team defends. I like their coach, Jamal Mosley, former Nuggets assistant. I'll go Nuggets over Magic in the finals.
I'm not making a prediction because I don't want to be very wrong.
I mean, that might help you be more right. You won't overthink it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's do a playoff roundup to wrap up headlines.
Caught me off guard there, buddy.
Sorry about that. I went a little quick. Let's do a playoff roundup to wrap up headlines. There it is.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
For the first time since 1993, the Toronto Blue Jays are the American League champions. They win their first pennant in 32 years with a 4-3 win over the Seattle Mariners in Game 7 of the ALCS last night. George Springer with the go-ahead 3-run homer in the 7th inning off of not Yorman Bizzardo, Eduardo Bizzardo. What was that man's name?
I don't know.
It's not Yorman. Edward Bizzardo. That was right. He gave up the dinger, and that allowed the Blue Jays to go ahead after the Mariners to build a 3-1 lead behind home runs from Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh. So the Mariners remain the only Major League Baseball team to never have won a pennant and played in a World Series. It was tantalizingly close. They had a 3-2 series lead. They could not get it over the hump. The Blue Jays, back in the Fall Classic, they, of course, went to and won their only 2 World Series appearances in 1992 and 1993. It's kind of fun to look back at those rosters. Obviously, this was before, 92 is before the most recent run of expansion. 93 was the first year of the expansion, Marlins and Rockies. So the league was still 28 teams at the time. And you still had to win your division to get to the playoffs. So teams that really were going for it were out there acquiring top-end talent. And one of the teams that could spend a lot of money at the time, and still can and does, Toronto. That's a huge media market. The owners have always had deep pockets. So you go back and you look at those 1992, 1993 Blue Jays rosters. Hall of Famers, up and down. They had Dave Winfield, Hall of Famer, was their DH in 1992, had the go-ahead hit in the 11th inning of Game 6 of the World Series that year to beat the Braves. He left in free agency. They replaced him with another Hall of Famer, Paul Molitor, and all he did in 1993 was lead the American League in hits. But he didn't win the batting title because his teammate John Olerud won the batting title. Hall of Very Good, John Olerud. Ricky Henderson was on the 93 Blue Jays. Dave Stewart was on the 93 Blue Jays. Not Hall of Famer, but a very good player. Jack Morris won 21 games for the 92 Jays. Hall of Famer. Devon White won a bunch of Gold Gloves. He was on those teams. Roberto Alomar, Hall of Famer. Just those teams were freaking loaded. And this Blue Jays team maybe doesn't quite have that many future Hall of Famers. Like maybe Vlad Guerrero Jr. But I do think it's funny. Carl Ravitch, who is the lead play-by-play voice of baseball on ESPN, said something on X today to the effect of the Blue Jays are the only thing standing in front of the Dodgers ruining baseball. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like the Dodgers even made reference to that in their speech after they won the National League pennant. Like, this whole idea that the Dodgers spent so much money and they were ruining baseball. Anybody remember when Vladimir Guerrero got $500 million 14-year contract extension? What team gave him that? What team had the deep enough pockets to give him that? Yeah, how much money is George Springer making?
Didn't he just re-sign today?
He ain't working for tips.
I think they agreed to a.
I don't know about that, but yeah, he's on a, like, Max Scherzer's not making pennies. They paid for Anthony Santander this
Max
offseason.
Scherzer might be making pennies from the Blue Jays. He's making a lot of money every year from the Nationals.
But the point here is that the Dodgers are not the only team that spends money and sometimes lots of money on players. And number two, if you would like to see, like, the Dodgers are being made the villains here because they spent the most money. They're not the bad guy. The bad guy are the 20 other owners who don't spend any money, which allow the Dodgers to just pick off any free agent that they want. That's on the 20 to 25 other owners who cry poor. It pains me to defend the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I hate with the glowing fury of 1,000 hibachis. Do you know how much I hate Max Muncy? Do you know how much ill I wish and have wished on Max Muncy over the last decade? Understand how much I hate the Dodgers. And everybody talking about the Dodgers ruining baseball puts me in a position where I have to defend the Dodgers because they're not doing anything wrong. They are the only team, one of the only teams that recognizes that they are in not the business of making money. They are in the business of putting a winning baseball team on the field. You're in the success business.
And guess
Your
what?
success is measured by the wins and the losses that show up in the Agate type in the back of the sports page. And if you don't win games, you don't have a good entertainment product. And the money you make is hollow and means nothing. So go put a winning team on the field. There are a bunch of other owners who could do more to put winning teams on the field than they do. So don't be mad at the Dodgers for doing what they can do to put the best possible team on the field. Don't be mad at the Dodgers. Be mad at your favorite team's owner for crying poor.
Yeah. I want to say one thing about this World Series. I know you are deeply saddened that there can't be a first World Series for the Mariners.
No Rings Island still has 4 occupants. No Rings Island is still occupied.
And I know you're very happy you don't have to talk about the big dumper dumping any more home runs this year.
Worst nickname in sports. I wish him a pleasant offseason. Really does have a big ass. I mean, he does. Like, and it's an understandable nickname. It's just a gross nickname. Come on, man. I'm not talking about another man's dumper. Who am I? Who do I look like? Anyway, Let's take a timeout. That's the playoff roundup. We'll resume those when the World Series starts, which I believe is Thursday. Is that when next World Series when the World Series starts? October 24th. So Friday then. Yeah, Friday. Game 1.
Yeah, I think it's Friday, Saturday, Monday.
Yeah, game 1, Friday in Toronto. The Jays have the home field advantage. When we come back, if Jayden Daniels doesn't play on Monday for the Commanders, what does their offense look like? Who are the biggest threats on that offense? We'll talk about it next with our Commanders insider, Spencer Dupuis, on 580 Sports Talk. .538 on 580 Sports Talk. The Kansas City Chiefs play the Washington Commanders on Monday night at Arrowhead Stadium. Chiefs trying to remain above 500, start a little winning streak. Commanders trying to get off the schneid. They've been in a funk. They started 3-1. They've lost 3 straight since, and in the second half of their game against the Cowboys on Sunday, they lost quarterback Jayden Daniels to a hamstring injury. Dan Quinn earlier this week expressed optimism that it is not a long-term injury for Daniels, but not sure about his status for Monday night. That'd be a shame because it would deny us our first Daniels versus Mahomes matchup. You always want to see how, and I know we can overblow the significance of a quarterback versus quarterback duel because it's not like they play each other. They're playing against the other team's defenses. I know that's all true, but it's still fun when you got 2 bold-faced names on the marquee for the starting quarterback matchup. And Mahomes versus Jayden Daniels is a lot more fun to comprehend or contemplate than Mahomes versus Marcus Mariota.
But Marcus Mariota, when not seen for 17 games a year, actually pretty good.
So, yeah, Mariota's found his level. The water has found its level for Marcus Mariota. I
don't want to see him as a starter, but I'll see him as a guy that comes in and can run some plays.
He's actually, right now, has more yards per carry and a higher running success rate than Jayden Daniels does. But this is where we have the unique opportunity to talk to somebody who knows the Commanders exceptionally well, Commanders fan, Spencer Dupuis, not an owner, not like Packers owner Brendan Dworzinski who appears on this show.
I don't have enough money to be a
they're not selling those shares. Anyhow, So when Mariota has played this year for Washington, do they do as much QB run game stuff, or is a lot of what Mariota does out of structure or out of schedule with his running ability? Because he has always been capable of making plays with his legs, but he's a different sort of runner. That Jayden Daniels is a guy you want to scheme run stuff for because he's that gifted as a runner.
I would say when you go back to the first game he started this year after Daniels hurt his knee, so he started against the Raiders. He ran a lot. He actually fumbled because it was a purposeful run, and he tried to leap a man. Didn't work out so well. He fumbled. But yeah, they like to run the read option stuff with him, like pure read option. Like Jayden's a lot of scrambler. Like if he can't find anybody, he will run. Like, and that's where his run game has not been successful as it was last year. He used to run out like, I don't know how to describe it, but if he can't find anybody, he is diagonaling himself towards the first down line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, self-preservation.
Yes, but he's not having success with that like he did last year because I think the book's out on him for that, right? And I don't think they're drawing up as many designed Jayden Daniels runs because of the knee injury that he's still wearing a brace for. So he still has a brace on while he's playing. So that's obviously limiting things. So, but Marcus Mariota, they are designing runs for him on the field, which to me, I'm kind of scared of because it's like Josh Johnson's our next quarterback if he gets hurt.
You're lying. Really?
Yes, Josh Johnson. Yes, a lot better. Josh Johnson was going to get cut if things worked out in the way that I think Dan Quinn and Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury wanted it to. But old Sam Hartman is Jayden Daniels' best friend, and he is a practice squad quarterback, and that's all he'll ever be. He will not be a third-string NFL or second-string NFL quarterback.
So that's one of three questions I want to pose about this Commanders offense. Second question is, how good is Ja'Cory, a.k.a. Bill Krosky Merritt? Because right now he leads the NFL in rushing success rate.
Yeah, well, look at his fumbles.
That has been, the turnovers have been an issue for Washington really the last 2 weeks in particular. They had 3 turnovers in the loss to the Bears, including that fumble that allowed the Bears to drive for the game-winning field goal.
Well, that was Jayden. So after the game, Jayden said that was my fault. I didn't get the snap to hand it back to him. But some people would think it was Bill.
It was a wet night, but still, 3 turnovers in that game, 2 turnovers against Dallas. So 5 in the last 2 weeks, 8 in the last 5 weeks. And Merritt has fumbled twice, or he's charged with 2 fumbles so far this season. He's very clearly the feature back. Like it is his show. He's got 73 carries to Chris Rodriguez's 26. Is he the back that's going to dent the Chiefs' rushing defense in a way that nobody's really been able to do so far this year? Travis Etienne was held in check, and Jahmyr Gibbs was largely held in check. Obviously, Ashton Genty didn't get anything going, him and all of his teammates last week. But the Chiefs' rush defense has been really solid and hasn't allowed those big chunk runs. Is Krosky Merritt the kind of guy who's going to break those chunk runs? And is this running game scheme going to get him the opportunity to break some of those chunk runs if there's not the pronounced running threat that Daniels is relative to the running threat of Mariota?
I think so. I think, well, if they get Debo back, because Debo has become a big part of this run game, and it's the threat of him running, because they will pull him on that, like, what is it? Not end around, but where they fake it, like a sweep. They'll fake the jet sweep to him, or they'll run the jet sweep, and it will distract people, because when they do jet sweep it to Debo, he's been pretty successful on the few attempts that he's had. So if Debo is healthy and he's playing, that's a distractor for Bill. But that also means is Terry McLaurin playing, because you have, like, that's another person to be aware of. Because if it's just Debo and you have Luke McCaffrey and Chris Moore and Robbie Chosen Anderson out there, I don't think Bill's going to be very successful, because they're not going to run the jet sweep with Debo if he is their number one receiving option that week.
Might be the way to get the running game unlocked is just hit it from, like, instead of just having it be put the ball in the running back's gut, they're going to have to be maybe a little bit more creative with how they do it. That's something that the Lions never really tried, which was kind of a surprise. They didn't try and go get on the perimeter and run the ball. But the Chiefs have been good against that, too. I mean, their cornerbacks are notoriously physical, and they get downhill. The other question, and we won't have clarity on this until the end of the week, but it sounds like it's trending in a hopeful direction at the very least for Deebo Samuel to be available on Monday night, for maybe Terry McLaurin to get back into the action after McLaurin has missed time. He's only played in 3 games so far this season. And obviously that makes this a very different offense. You have wide receiver number 1 and wide receiver number 2 back out on the field. But it's also a different offense when QB1 is either not playing, or you would imagine, even if he did make it to Monday, that there'd be some limitations given that he's already dealt with the knee this year and he'd be coming off of a hamstring injury that was sufficient enough to knock him out of a game. So it's an offense that still kind of feels like, relative to when we last saw it, going to probably come in with maybe one hand tied behind his back a little bit.
Yeah, and I think so if Brendan was here, I think Brendan would be roasting the particular offensive scheme by one offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury. And if you know Brendan, you know he doesn't like Cliff Kingsbury. I think that what they do with Jayden Daniels, what Jayden Daniels does, is becoming too predictable within that offense.
Interesting.
That's that's my new synopsis on things.
We will have much more to say about this game throughout the rest of the week and, of course, into Monday when it kicks off. We'll take a timeout right here. When we come back, a little preview of what's to come at Big 12 Basketball Media Days tomorrow here on 580 Sports Talk. .550 on 580 Sports Talk, coming towards the end of proceedings today. Tomorrow on the show, Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Days. That's right. Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Days tomorrow. It'll be bright and early that I'll get there. And Jerome Tang will be first to the podium. And we will hear from the K-State head coach. We'll also, of course, hear from the KU head coach, Bill Self. He'll be last to the podium at about 3:40 tomorrow afternoon.
I bet you love that.
Yeah. Might be streaming that one on the way back. I got to pick up my kiddo from daycare. We'll see. We'll see how the day goes. We'll see what the day
Timing
brings.
not your friend tomorrow.
No, the breakout sessions are at least more well timed. The players who will be representing the Sunflower State schools tomorrow: Flory Badunga, Darren Peterson, and Trey White for KU. Abdi Bashir, PJ Haggerty, and Moby Ike Garuke will be there for K-State. Interesting that Moby's there. Typically, you don't bring a guy who's not going to play a major role for your team to Big 12 Media Days. So that would suggest that Moby, who was a fun player last year, and I think there's a role for the energy and for the athleticism that Moby brings to K-State, but also I look at the guys they brought in, and I would think that there's probably like 8 or 9 guys you'd like to think can give you more production than Moby can. Well, and production's not everything. Like, sometimes you don't need to play a bunch of guys who can go get buckets. Sometimes you need to go play a guy who's 6'7" and can jump like crazy and will rebound his butt off and defend his butt off. I mean, you just need that for 10 minutes a night. Maybe that's what Moby's going to bring for this K-State team. But I thought it was interesting that he's going for K-State. But you're going to hear from them tomorrow. You're going to hear from Bill Self. You're going to hear from Jerome Tang. You hear from yours truly. My impressions of the day as well. I'll be out at the T-Mobile Center tomorrow for Big 12 men's basketball media days. We'll take one more time out here at 580 Sports Talk, and we'll come back with a final word to put a wrap on the show. It's time for a final word on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Spencer Dupuis, what you got?
Yeah, we didn't talk about it on the show today, but we mentioned Big 12 Men's Basketball Media Day is tomorrow. Well, Big 12 Women's Basketball Media Day was today. And I caught up some of the stuff that Kansas State women's basketball head coach Jeff Mittie had to say today. And part of me had been sitting here wondering, why on earth is Kansas State in the Big 12, a team that's been ranked in the top 25, a team that's made the tournament, going on the road for a exhibition game? Well, he answered that question. He said he wants his players to become unfamiliar familiar with each other, get on the road, do things that they're not normally entitled to do as he brings in new players to this team this year. And I think that's a great idea. Also, their schedule is very underrated. I think they play a big-time non-conference schedule. They're going to play
2 top 12 preseason teams.
Two top 12 preseason teams, and number 12 Ole Miss and number 11 UNC. If they can make it out of non-conference schedule and learn some stuff and, maybe take a few take one of those games or win one or two of those games or take both of those games, I think that'll be huge for them going into the Big 12 slate. And again, as I mentioned, they'll get going with their first exhibition next Monday.
Final word for me, in case you missed this in the 3 o'clock hour. I didn't love everything that Brett Yormark had to say at Big 12 Women's Basketball Media Day today. A bit of a state of the conference, where things stand with global issues as far as the world of college athletics. I haven't agreed with every stance that Brett Yormark has taken. I don't love the idea of expanding the NCAA basketball tournament to any more than 68 teams. Honest to goodness, I mean, you've seen some of the first 4 games these past few years. Honestly, contraction would benefit the tournament. But there's money to be made, and for the powers that be, there is money that has to replace the money that now you have to share with the athletes, which you were not doing for virtually the entire history of college athletics until recently. So that's why something like that is going to happen. But it did bring me great joy to hear Brett Yormark say flatly, plainly, private equity for us doesn't work. That is not a devil you want to let in the door. It is a dangerous game you're playing when you let private equity in, because then you become about maximizing profit, because you've got to get that private equity firm their stake back and then some. And then you start making all of your decisions based on that. That's a dangerous road to go down. For Brett Yormark to say, we're betting on ourselves, the league, we're not giving a stake to anyone, that brought me joy to hear. And I love that that's where the Big 12 views itself in the college sports landscape. We got plenty of Big 12 Media Day stuff coming tomorrow, and we'll be live from 3 until 6. Until then, for Spencer, I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.